Today's episode is sponsored by No Strings Attached e-News, your premier online magazine with interesting and informative articles from lifestyle, entertainment, and news worldwide. Visit the website to find out what's buzzing on nsaen.com. Welcome to the talk show Life Stories with Marc Hoberman. The goal of this show is to provide a learning experience to people of all ages, with guests from various fields in academics, a wide range of industries, and insight into the many forms of art, athletics, and entertainment. We hope you enjoy the show. The Zombies lead singer Colin Blunstone returns to talk about the release of mono and remastered Odyssey and Oracle, as well as live at Union Chapel.
Welcome to Life Stories with Marc Hoberman, where we uncover the story behind the glory. Today, I'm honored to sit down with a voice that has helped define an era and continues to captivate audiences worldwide. Colin Blunstone of the Zombies, as he launches a new solo tour and celebrates the release of 1 year and more, live from Union Chapel. Colin reflects on the music, the memories, and the moments that brought him here. Let's bring him on. Colin Blunstone, welcome to Life Stories with Marc Hoberman.
Thank you so much, Mark. Great to see you again.
Oh, so good to have you again. Before we talk about everything, Colin, I got to mention some zombie things. First of all, I think I got your autograph over here.
Yes.
With some other
Great.
people.
Excellent.
So, yeah. So let's tell the fans, this is almost 60 years old, or is 60 years old. What makes this new release of the album different from so many years ago?
Well, it's a remastered mono version of the album, which was how it was originally recorded. When the original recordings were taken to CBS, it was a time when stereo was just beginning to be popular, and we'd recorded it all in mono, and they said, okay guys, this is fine, but we actually want stereo mixes. And so it was a little bit of an afterthought, and also there was a very tight budget issue because we'd spent the recording costs. And so maybe some people will definitely prefer this album in mono, which is what this is, remastered in mono. So for the first time, people will hear the album as we recorded it, how we intended it to be heard. It does sound really, really good. It's a 60-year-old album that sounds really as fresh today as it did when it was first recorded.
That's great. So exciting. And of course, you mentioned the tight budget in the documentary, Hung Up on a Dream. I don't think you know what the word slow down mean. I was an English teacher for over 30 years. I'll give you a little vocab lesson because you are the ever-ready bunny. It's unbelievable. So I went to see you in New York to do a Q&A and performance with Rooney's lead singer, Robert Schwartzman, also the director. And I have to tell you, he made an announcement that, we knew you were coming on to perform. And he said, but your plane just landed and here you are, you're hitting 80 and you come out. I have to tell you, when you did Time of the Season, you hit a long note. I could have gone out for a sandwich and come back, and you were still on that note.
I don't always do that.
Okay.
I don't always do that. Did you enjoy that? I never know. It's just a bit of fun, really. It's something that I'm able to do. Yeah. And I don't always do it. But did you enjoy it personally?
No, I have to tell you, not only did I enjoy it, I brought a friend of mine, and he's never seen you live. And I said, wait till you hear the ending. And, like you say, you don't always do it, but it's usually a long note anyway. This was off the charts, but I got to tell you, you have fans of all ages, but I think some of the older fans almost had a heart attack. It didn't stop. The note did not stop. And it was unbelievable. And I was like, okay, this guy's lip syncing, or there's an album. What's going on here? So I'm just going to tell you before we get into the solo thing now. So there's people, they say force of nature. But that's not you. I think you're a freak of nature. And I say that with the highest possible regard and respect. But that made me depressed. I had to go to the gym the next day. I said, if he can hold the note that long, I got to get back to the gym. So I want to talk about, Colin, you've had a remarkable, it's crazy to say, a 6-decade career, and it's continuing. So moving from the Zombies to a solo journey that still resonates. So before the tour and this live release, what was the moment when you realized your voice had become more than just singing, but now it's a legacy in motion?
Well, it's very kind of you to say that. I mean, you see your own voice or your own performance in a different way to the way other people see it. I mean, I still think as a performer and as a vocalist, I'm still evolving. I don't see myself as the finished article. I'm always looking for ways to improve. So I think that for a statement, as you just made, really you have to look for the answer to other people. I mean, I'm the most critical person of my own performances that you can imagine. You know, I always see something could be better, always. And so, as I said, you know, I'm just looking to improve all the time. If people feel that I've achieved something over the years, that makes me really happy. I'm very proud as well. But I think most performers are the same. You know, you're always worrying about what's next rather than thinking about what's in the past. Yeah. But if people do feel that you've achieved something, of course it energizes you to go on, and it really helps with the next performance.
Oh, for sure. And you really walk the walk and talk the talk. I remember I saw you in Virginia. I think it was the Birchmere. And we came backstage. You were gracious enough with Rod and the band. And you said, did we sound okay? How did it sound? And I thought you were joking because it sounded like it always sounds phenomenal. But I have to tell you that there are so many young people in the audience now. I mean, you've got generations of fans. They're blown away. These aren't the concerts they're used to. And just the professionalism and the storytelling is something they don't normally see. So we're going to talk about the storytelling. So let's revisit One Year Live. Your 1971 solo album, One Year, has lived quietly in the hearts of fans, and now you performed it live in its entirety and captured it in 1 Year and More, live from Union Chapel. What inspired you to revisit that album after all this time?
Well, there've been lots to talk about that album, and sort of on a lower level, it's the interest in the album has developed in much the same way as it developed on Odyssey and Oracle. It hasn't reached quite the levels of Odyssey and Oracle, but a lot of people talk to me about that first album, and it really does have some unique arrangements on it. A wonderful arranger called Chris Gunning worked on 6 of the 10 tracks. I think that's right. And I've never heard anything like it before or since. I think in some ways the idea was to use Bartok-esque string arrangements. So they're quite sort of aggressive string arrangements from mostly a quartet, though sometimes it's supplemented. On one track it's 12 instruments, and on the last track it's actually a 21-piece string orchestra. But the arrangements are not what you normally expect, where the strings just fill out what other instruments are playing. There are no other instruments. The strings and the arrangement are the whole package. And it does give it a very different sound. But there are some other tracks that are more ordinary with a band and so forth. So it makes it quite a challenging album to play live, because there's 2 or 3 different genres of music on this album. That I've mentioned the string tracks. There are some band tracks. There's one track that just features brass and woodwind. So we have to try and cover all these bases when we play it live. I wasn't really sure if we're going to be able to do it, but I hope that when you hear it live, that you feel that we pulled it off. It was, we weren't absolutely confident how it was going to go, but we had just wonderful musicians. The band are great, and the Q strings are a wonderful string quartet, which helped us on this venture. And I think the players all pulled together wonderfully well. And of course, we have a wonderful sound engineer. You were talking about the Zombies sound earlier. Dale Hansen is a sound guy for the Zombies, but he's also a sound guy for my solo band as well. So we had all these wonderful people all pulling together to achieve what we did. And so the box set that's coming out, I think it comes out on Friday, on the 21st of November. I think I've got that right. Yep. There are 2 CDs. The first half, which is more of the usual things that I play with a solo band, and then the second half, which is 1 Year Live, and there's also a DVD as well of the whole concert. And one of the interesting things for me was it came about in a very natural way, but there are no zombie tracks in this concert, and it's principally because the idea of doing 1 year was first played live at a Zombies festival. We have a weekend festival just not every year, but some years. And Begin Here, it's called.
Begin Here, right.
And the festival, that's after the first Zombies album, was called Begin Here.
Right.
And it happens in St Albans, where the band first started. And it's a weekend of events. And on the Friday night, we played 1 year in its entirety for the first time in St Albans. But on the Saturday night, we had a Zombies concert. So I couldn't play any zombie tunes on the Friday night. Mm-hmm. We took that show, I think we played it 3 or 4 times. It ended up at the Union Chapel, which is a wonderful venue, so atmospheric in London. Mm-hmm. And we took that show into the Union Chapel, and I didn't change it. I didn't put any zombie tracks in it. So some people might be quite surprised. But the reason is that we just carried on the show from the Zombies Begin Here festival, and we played that show at the Union Chapel.
Oh, when you talk about people might be surprised, I think people might be surprised and are always surprised. I'm pretty sure you're singing in the same key that
yes.
you did from years ago. And there's nobody anywhere near your age who can still pull it off with that range. And that's the freak of nature part, to be honest with you, that I was speaking to earlier. Aren't there 1 or 2 members of the Zombies who are with you in the solo band as well?
We always call it the second incarnation of the Zombies.
Right,
the original Zombies played from 64 to 67, but the second incarnation played up until about 18 months ago, when you probably know that Rod Argent had a stroke, and he's decided he's not going to tour anymore. Mm-hmm. From that band, yes, Steve Rodford was the drummer in the Zombies, and Soren Koch was actually the bass player in the Zombies, but he's a fine guitarist as well. And he's playing lead guitar in my solo band. Dave Bainbridge is on keyboards in the solo band. People who know the Strawbs will know Dave Bainbridge, and he's also a fine solo artist as well. And Chas Cronk, again, was in the Strawbs, is on bass. So we've got 2 Strawbs and 2 Zombies in the solo band. And they're fine players and lovely guys. You can't overestimate how important it is when you're traveling on tour to have really good blokes in the band, because people get tired, and it can get quite pressured 5 minutes before you go on. Everything goes wrong, and you've got to still pull it off. And you want to have good, positive, supportive, easygoing people with you. And this band are fabulous.
That's great. It's like a team, any team. You could be the pitcher of a baseball team. You need a good team behind you. You have a great team behind you. And you really are the leader. You're the front man. So you go from front man to solo storyteller. So with the Zombies, you're part of a collective voice. But on this tour, you're stepping more fully into your own narrative. So how has your role as the storyteller changed between those eras?
Well, I've always had a solo band, so this is not a step into the void for me. I've always had a solo band. It is different in many subtle ways. You can, to just put it into a well-known saying, the buck ends with me. I have to make decisions. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they're not always easy decisions, and it's not a group enterprise at all. I have to decide what songs we're playing, what venues we're playing, when we leave when we leave from the hotel, when we get to the hotel. At the end of the day, I have to decide a lot of minute little things, but in their own way, they can become quite important. But certainly on the musical side of things, I have to decide who's in the band. I have to decide what we're playing, what songs we're playing. With the Zombies, it was more of a joint thing. It was more of Rod Argent and myself deciding. Right. And of course, in a way, it's the way the band is presented. The Zombies, of course, was always presented as a band, which is what it was. But when it's a solo venture, there's a little bit more of the spotlight literally on you, and just I can't think what the word is, but not literally on you as well. Right. So it is slightly different, definitely.
Right. Well, there is the cerebral end that you just mentioned with the minute details and really having to be the one out there. But then there's also the physicality of it. So, the upcoming tour, Believe in Miracles, it marks your first major solo outing in a while. I know you do it here and there, but at this stage in your life and career, What does touring mean to you beyond performance and promotion? It's tiring.
It is tiring, and to a degree, you have to get yourself a bit fit, especially your voice. Years ago, I used to think in terms of getting myself fit. I used to run a lot. As I've got older, I'm afraid my knees won't let me run anymore.
Right.
So I try to be a bit fit, but more than anything, it's concentrating on the voice. I started with a singing coach 25 years ago, something like that. And he taught me a little bit about singing technique, not a lot. I'm not an expert on this, a little bit about singing technique, and also gave me a set of exercises which I need to do at least once a day, every day. But on the road, I do them twice. This is just, leading up to a tour. So for 2 or 3 weeks before the tour, I'll be doing this set of exercises, which gives your voice a pretty good workout. When we start the tour, I do it once before sound check and once before the show. And I should be well warmed up by the time the show starts in that respect. But yeah, you do have to prepare yourself a bit. Also, people don't think about this. Maybe I don't think about it as much as I should. But once you know what the set's going to be, you have to know those songs really, really well so that they come automatically. It's not like singing in the shower.
Right.
It's a bit more intense than that.
Yeah.
You have to know these songs without thinking about them, and so you have to put in quite a bit of time. Well, I do anyway, to get to that point.
Well, I always found that you are so respectful as an artist, because there's a legacy here. I mean, your live set spans Zombies classics, solo favorites, I think even brand new compositions. So how do you balance honoring the past while also pushing forward with fresh creative energy for yourself and for the audience? Well,
it's a delicate balance, really, but I know that there are people in the audience that want to hear the hits. Right. And so I'll sing the hits, of course.
Right.
We're doing an hour and a half or an hour and 45 minutes. There's enough time to put a few hits in there. Then I like to pick out a few obscure tracks, maybe zombie obscure tracks, or maybe solo obscure tracks. And then, I like to put in a smattering of new songs as well, 4 or 5 new songs. In a way, the principle of putting a set together is quite simple. It's just what I just said, play your hits, play some obscure songs that you really like, and play some new songs. Of course, they will have a special energy, the new songs. Putting it into practice isn't always quite as simple as that, but that's the basis of how I do it anyway.
Wow. Well, that's it's funny or interesting to hear somebody who has 60 years in the business talk about practice, because there are some people who just go in and sing road and it's a big name and people say, oh, I saw him. But every time you go on, I know that I've seen you guys after a concert talk about how can we make this better, and that's so refreshing. I think it's such a great thing for young people to see that I don't think you believe there's anything. There's no such thing as perfection, only progress. And you're always going. You're always going the extra mile. Capturing a full album performance live at a place like Union Chapel, that's a bold undertaking. So what were the toughest moments behind the scenes for that night?
Well, you're always up against the clock. That's always a problem. Just getting everybody mic'd, getting the sound desk how you want it. I think the other thing was just rehearsals. We didn't have a lot of chance to rehearse because everyone's involved in other projects.
Right.
And to get everyone together, you've got to get the band together and the quartet together. I think with the quartet, I probably had 2 afternoons with them before we did it. And so we were flying by our bootstraps a little bit. But then we'd had a couple of concerts before we did the Union Chapel, so that really helped. But rehearsal time, as I say, was very limited. And then when you get to the actual venue, you always need more time. Yeah. And because we were filming, of course, people were concentrating on the lights. They wanted to interview everybody. So there were extra things that had to be done that wouldn't be done on a normal concert. I mean, but it's all fine.
Yeah.
It's just it can get a little bit intense before the show, and then of course the showtime comes, and you go on and you're smiling and relaxed and having fun. But beforehand, things can get a bit frenetic.
Sure.
But you just have to let that pass, float over you, really.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that anxiety or that angst before fuels you, because it certainly comes out that way on stage. And we talked earlier about your younger fans. So decades ago, your music touched people in a very different era. But today your audience spans generations, as I said earlier. So how do you stay connected with young fans while still honoring the longtime listeners?
Well, I think that good music, and I mean, it's not for me to say how good the music is, although I can say about the songs because I didn't write all the songs, so I'm an outsider on the writing. But I think that, really good songs will touch people of all ages. Yeah. I think there's false barriers put up by the media that young people only like music by young artists. And the same with older people, only like music by older people. Why should that be? If you're playing good music, it will affect people of all ages, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get an emotional reaction from people of all ages. Of course we are. I'm not, I don't just want to have an audience. It's lovely to have people that have followed you right the way through your career. It's very special. It's a special relationship. But why should the audience just be people that first discovered the Zombies in 1964? And I know people do get quite a shock, especially when they come to see the Zombies, but it's true of the solo band as well. Mm-hmm. When they come to see the Zombies, there are lots of teenagers there.
Yes.
And people in their 20s. It's a very cross-section of ages. And I think that's great. It gives the whole performance an energy that wouldn't be there otherwise.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, the different ages and the young people that I see sitting next to me and behind me just can't, they're blown away by what they see. So we're talking about a big journey here. We got about a minute left. So looking back at your journey from teen frontman, you were like 17, 16 when you met, to solo legend, and now this live release and tour. What's the next chapter that Colin Blunstone is so excited to write?
Well, I am recording tracks at the moment for my next solo album. And when you said about excited to write, there have been 3 or 4 approaches for me to write my biography as well. Mm. So who knows, maybe I'll get down to doing that. But right now, I'm recording tracks for a new album. It could possibly be released next year. It's early days at the moment, but we're moving on quite fast. So it could possibly be released for next year. So first and foremost, there's this live album and DVD that's coming out. Right. And then hopefully there'll be a solo album hard on its heels of new material.
That's outstanding. Unreal. Colin Blunstone, I can't thank you enough for being a guest yet again and sharing your incredible life and music with us. And you continue to go, the freak of nature. And we can't wait to see what you accomplish next. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Mark. It's been great being on your show again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Life Stories with Marc Hoberman. To contact Marc, email him at info@lifestorieswithmarchoberman.com or visit him on social media through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Thank you for watching Life Stories with Marc Hoberman.